Namely, my PhD project is dealing with narrative museums in post-communist Republic of Macedonia, with a special accent on the museums and memorial objects focused on the Macedonian Revolutionary Organization. The present paper is a side project of mine, which was prepared within the development of another.
Closer to the mind.
Yeah. Which was prepared. Within the development of another wider project dealing with the religious diversity in the Balkan museums, and I have to say that it eventually got funding, so I hope that we will somehow manage to also develop and let's say widen the scope of the project itself. Okay, so one can clearly trace.
Can you hear?
One can clearly trace. Okay, better? So one can clearly trace two junctures in the recent treatment of the memory of the Macedonian Jewry. The first one being the inauguration of the Holocaust Museum Center for the Jews of Macedonia in Skopje from March 2011, imagined and promoted as a multimedia object commemorating the struggle of the Macedonian Jews during the Second World War. The second event was the most recent signing of the Bulgarian-Macedonian Friendship Treaty from August 2017, which, amidst the focus on the economic and interstate partnership, tends to enhance the cooperation of the contracting parties and envisions a joint committee to overview the treaty's activities. The highly contested historical issues and mnemonic claims define the Bulgarian-Macedonian bilateral dynamism throughout the modern history, and in this regard, the Friendship Treaty can be perceived as a clear juncture to this particular ethnocentric neighboring politics. The two events have certainly influenced the above-mentioned mnemonic process in various manners.
Lost, that's why. Yeah. In Germany, it's lost and it's out. That's why people are freaking out.
You don't.
They're screaming.
The two events have certainly influenced the above-mentioned mnemonic process in various manners. The Memorial Center, on one hand, was frequently framed as a clear opposition to the official narrative of salvation within the Bulgarian public discourse of the Jews within Bulgaria proper during the war years. On the other hand, the museal and educational work of the institution were immediately recognized within the domestic context, and the object as such was often depicted as a certain counterpoint of the surrounding memoryscape of Skopje 2014 project, a top-down state-sponsored project of which consisted more than 130 monuments and memorials in the various city's urban core, let's say. The Friendship Treaty in this regards, with its announced common state commemorations and revision of the history textbooks, alongside the media interpretation of the treaty, set again the above-mentioned contestations high on the political agenda in both Bulgaria and Macedonia. On a different note, one can discuss the treaty as an attempt to construct a transnational mnemonic platform in the Balkans, a process which was most recently extended with the Greek-Macedonian agreement on the name change from the last Sunday, July 16th or 17th. The construct of transnational memory, product of the transcultural turn in the memory studies, is understood both as a critical stance on the methodological nationalism on one hand and the endorsement of the discourses on the particular globalizing, cosmopolitan and multi-directional memories. The proposed paper will engage in discussing the two events as such, namely the mnemonic, political and social openings they are providing. The primary research goals is unfortunately yet to be accomplished, as the projected new permanent exhibition of the Memorial Center was postponed in 2 occasions earlier this year. I'll just briefly provide a historical overview. Namely, it's a historical commonplace that more than 7,700 Jews were residing on the territory of today's Republic of Macedonia prior to the Second World War. The community, which can be traced back as being present in the region to the Roman and medieval times, got more numerous after the Spanish and Portuguese Sephardic migrations from the 13th and 14th century. The approach of open borders by the Sultan Bayezid II contributed towards establishing the Jewish community within the social structures and in the major urban trade and administrative centers of Skopje, Bitola or Monastir, Štip and Ohrid. After the Nazi attack on Yugoslavia and Greece from April 6, 1941, which resulted into an occupation of the Yugoslav territory, the newly conquered region fell under administration by the Nazi allies, the wartime Bulgarian, Hungarian and Italian states. The Bulgarian army entered the Macedonian territory on April 19th of April 1941 after the period of interregnum, replacing the regime of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia on the territory of Macedonia. Even though the Bulgarian forces were saluted as liberators in Skopje, soon after this military admittance, it became clear, as presented by Andrew Rossos and Michael Miller, both historians dealing with the interwar period in the particular region, that for the locals, one occupation is just being replaced with another one. This is a quotation from Miller. Sorry. The end of the Second World War brought a new political division on the Balkan Peninsula. The Vardar part of the Macedonian region entered the newly established Socialist Federation of Yugoslavia as one of its 6 constitutive republics. The predominance of the national paradigm over the class one was perceived as the key moment for the nation-building process of the newly established states within the newly established Socialist Federation. In this regards, it's important to be mentioned that up to the 1980s, the official Macedonian historiography was treating the Jews exclusively as communist resistance fighters against the fascist Bulgarian and German occupiers and as ardent supporters of what was called the national liberation of Macedonia from foreign oppressors. This is a quotation from Stefan Tröpst. From his paper, recent paper actually on Macedonia. As for the Bulgarian-Yugoslav relations, the key word remains the Tito-Stalin split from 1948 and the forthcoming division of neighboring states in different political and to a certain extent ideological camps. In this manner, the memory of the Holocaust was further instrumentalized on a state level, utilized in various hidden formats whenever certain tensions were appearing or were expected to appear. Notwithstanding, certain decentralized efforts are to be mentioned as they illustrate the best the local and the particular cases of discursive framing and memorialization of the Holocaust. Herein, a monument of the deported and exterminated Jews of Bitola was erected in the same city in 1958, while a series of articles organized in a feuilleton titled The Tragedy of the Macedonian Jews was published in the state-sponsored newspaper of Nova Macedonia in 1961. The particular boom of the Jewish and Holocaust studies in Macedonia took place only after the 1980s, and it's mostly linked with the immense research interest and individual effort to several scholars, rather than an organized and an institutional takeover, let's say. Here I include the names of Alexander Matkovsky and Paul Bonos, the leading ones. The institutional support became way more available after the state independence in 1991, when the Holocaust Fund of the Macedonian Jews stepped in as a leader responsible for researching, disseminating and opting for the Jewish affair in Macedonia, and thus the social interest in the topic became adequately higher. The Holocaust Memorial Center in Skopje was designated to be a particular culmination of the above-mentioned process. Right now, a bit more about the Memorial Center itself. Namely, one can clearly stress that the idea behind the creation of the Macedonian Holocaust Memorial Center in Skopje was to eliminate the potential pitfalls of not commemorating and even mal-commemorating the destiny of the Macedonian Jewry from the Second World War In the late 1990s, a parliamentary and shortly afterwards a governmental debate was opened regarding the restitution of the Jewish property in the Republic of Macedonia. The debate concluded with an acclaiming note to push actually a property restitution law, and was followed by a decision to establish a museal institution commemorating the Macedonian Jews in 2002. A cornerstone of the memorial object was publicly promoted on September 2nd of September 2005, while two years afterwards the property restitution legislative was defined and adopted. According to the Holocaust Fund of the Macedonian Jews, a legal entity which stands behind the foundation of the Holocaust Memorial Center, it was the property restitution law which actually enabled to establish such an institution, since a great portion of the means returned by the law were redirected to the museum funding. Additionally, the official discourse promoting the memorial institution was drawing upon the very multifunctionality of the object itself, thus stressing its further cornerstone role in the creation of the novel post-socialist memory culture of the southernmost former Yugoslav state. Darko Stefanovski, then Vice Minister of Culture in 2010, 1 year before the official inauguration, stressed that the Holocaust Memorial Center of the Macedonian Jews presents a multimedia center consisted of several functional units and respectively inaugurated in few phases. The Holocaust Memorial Center in Skopje was officially inaugurated on 10th of March 2011, the first day of the deportation of the Macedonian Jews in 1943. Located in the very center of the former Jewish neighborhood in the Macedonian capital, the memorial object pays tribute to the 7,148 Jews deported from Macedonia to the Nazi concentration camp of Treblinka. The opening exhibition was designed by Michael Berenbaum, Edward Jacobs, and the prominent Macedonian architect Jovan Ivanovski, while several museal and memorial institutions contributed with materials and consultations regarding the final exhibition. As inter alia, the Yad Vashem Center, the USC Shoah Foundation, the Memorial Museum of the Holocaust in Washington, the Jewish Museum in Belgrade, and the National Institution Museum of Bito, that's the official name. The memorial object has certainly triggered the debate within both the academic and non-academic Bulgarian communities, as the critical juncture in this manner is the occupied territories of Thrace and Macedonia, where the Jewish salvation did not take place as opposed to the developments in Bulgaria proper. In this manner, the immediate reactions described the memorial center in Skopje as an empty museum, stressing the very instrumental function this institution will have in future. This was proposed by two prominent media outlets in Bulgaria in 2011 and 2012. The philosophy was further employed to stress the lack of the museal materials in the memorial object, while the very fact that the object establishment itself perceives the institution as a narrative museum was taken for granted and considered a weak attempt to present a particular historical episode. The question was further raised and mentioned within the auspices of the European Parliament, as the Bulgarian MPs reacted on the launch of the historical sport drama movie, and third half was the English name Feta Bulgaria in Macedonia, from 2013, a movie on the wartime football club Macedonia, which also recreates the deportation of the Macedonian Jews from Skopje in 1943. Final slide. Just a few points of intersection and some openings which can be further discussed. The Friendship Treaty, as above mentioned, is to be considered as a clear game changer in terms of profiling the new commemorative model on the deportation and extermination of the Macedonian Jewry. In this regard, an important shift in the commemorative ceremony of March 11th occurred this year, with the first March of the Living taking place in Skopje and two other cities in contemporary Republic of Macedonia. The March of the Living was attended by the Bulgarian Prime Minister and a high-level delegation of the Bulgarian and also Bosnia and Herzegovina state, thus making the first ever appearance of a Bulgarian official at a ceremony commemorating the struggle of the Macedonian Jews. The significance of the event can be further highlighted with a statement issued by Boyko Borisov, the Prime Minister, who stressed that we grieve because we shall never forget. God bless their souls, they are forever in our memory. And also mentioned, he made practically a discursive link to the role of the Bulgarian Orthodox Church and the civil society in Bulgaria proper during the war years. Also mentioning as well the Balkan Wars and the particular horrors which should not repeat. Even though in the Macedonian press it was stressed that Borisov failed to apologize for the role of the Bulgarian militia in the course of the deportation, the public reactions were predominantly positive. Borisov depicted as propaganda the attempt of one journalist to pose a question on the eventual apologize from a high-level Bulgarian side. However, Goran Sadikari, the director of the Holocaust Fund of the Macedonian Jews, greeted the statement and stated that the wind of change is visible in Bulgaria, and the positive outcomes are yet to be seen. The commemorative event can be generally perceived as an attempt to launch the commemorative model and the new positioning towards the memory of the Jewish struggle in the bilateral perspective. Notwithstanding, the ceremony proved again the necessity of a memory institution serving as a platform and a discursive center for the further dissemination of the transnational narrative of the struggle of the Macedonian Jews. Therefore, one can conclude that not only the Holocaust Memorial Center in Skopje is not an empty museum, but also functions on the different mnemonic layers and has a wide commemorative scope. As such, the Memorial Center also contains the memory of the bilateral relations, as well as the memory of the local developments in the cultural sphere, thus creating a specific mode of palimpsestic Memorial Center with an even more promising future development. That would be it.